Salutations, dear viewers. You're on with NeXeN of the Vast Nexus, and welcome to a video series that is not a full Let's Play. Ark is a game that I have invested a great deal of time in, and Ark does demand a great deal of time investment. I am, however, doing a highlight series featuring some of the more challenging parts of Ark gameplay, namely the caves and the resultant boss battles. For this section, we will be handling one of the easier caves. My equipment includes a full set of chitin armor, which is recommended for this cave, as well as some bug spray, which is optional. With a strong enough mount, you can handle most of the creatures you'll be encountering outside of the waters of the cave. As for handling the waters of the cave, I would definitely recommend bringing a baryonyx, or in the very least a sarcosuchus, for dealing with large quantities of piranhas. I find a baryonyx of at least level 80 works well, and the piranhas can actually be a boon to your baryonyx, as they offer very essential fish meat necessary for forced healing. Now, I am at the footpaw. It is a relatively easy area on the island to locate. Right there along latitude 80 line and pretty much square between longitude 30 and 40. So this will be the central southern island. The name, not island, cave. The name will be in the actual video title. But it is quite literally just a hop and a step from my initial base. Now, I'm not packing scuba gear for this excursion. Aside from piranha problems, I expect to not have a great deal of loot in the underwater sections. There aren't that many to begin with, but I have tackled this cave before. The cave itself is extremely easy to do if you have an allosaur. It's even more powerful in terms of its base combat capability than a baryonyx. However, if you get it into any of the watery segments, you will likely be placing it into a watery grave. The allosaur cannot jump, unlike the berry, and it's a lousy swimmer, like most of the large theropods. So baryonyx's tail attack... As I was saying, baryonyx's tail attack does not stun piranhas. However, it does damage them, and can damage large groups of them clustered together, which is what you'll most likely be encountering in the waters of the cave. Now, I may be attempting to tame an araneo, the giant spiders, while I go into this cave. It's part of the reason I'm bringing the bug spray and a generous supply of spoiled meat. So yes, I have ventured into this cave before. It is one of only 4 caves I've ever been into, and one of only 2 I've actually successfully made it out of with the artifact alive. This is one of the artifacts required for summoning the broodmother Listerix? However it's pronounced. And the cave's generous allowance for relatively large creatures, and in particular, its lack of the onic, or again, pronunciation. The giant bats makes it a lot easier to manage. In fact, the cave is probably extremely easy with a megalania. One side note, you may find megalania in the cave, in which case, that's when you definitely want a strong, combat-ready mount. So, I have a small base set up down here. That's not my trike, that's just some wild one that's been snooping around. So let's go ahead and slap a torch onto my berry, and let's go into the cave. There might be a little lag spike here as the cave geometry loads in. So caves are a generous source of crystal and obsidian, both rare resources, as well as a generous supply of iron. Before I forget... There, we now have 600 seconds of bugs utterly ignoring us, which will be necessary to tame the araneo. Now, another beneficial feature of this cave is that it does not feature environmental extremes. A simple cloth shirt, as well as a few points in fortitude in this cave, is perfectly survivable. Which is good. You don't need to bring an otter. Which is especially good because my otter died due to a Trudon attack. which is why I murder every Trudon I see. Alternatively, soups, broths, and other food items in the Rockwell recipes can be used to boost environmental endurance for specific environmental dangers. Now, if no hostiles are encountered in this run, it's most likely because they haven't respawned since my last venture into this cave. I did make quite a concerted effort to retrieve as much iron as well as other resources from the cave as possible. And there is an Araneo. Several, in fact, which does represent a slight problem. We need to prioritize the highest level. Whoa-ho-ho. So let's consider that a cautionary tale. Bug spray will make you invisible to bugs, but contact will still lead to a hostile response, and Araneo tend to operate in packs. Hopefully we can find some more. It also has no effect on lovely Titanoboas. And bug spray strangely has no effect on Pulmonoscorpus either. That one I find particularly curious. Ah, Arthropleura. So, hopefully this Araneo is far enough away that we can successfully tame it without further interference from any of its cousins. So, Araneo, as its primary taming food source, would like rotten meat. Peculiar, I know, but I'm not going to complain. It's a lot easier. Wow, you're low level. Never mind that one. I did not have this much trouble taming Arthropleura. Not bad, but I don't need another one. Unfortunately, these insects generally cannot be bred. That's true for dung beetles, and it's also true for Araneo and Arthropleura. Level 76. You're both 76. Interesting. Okay, how close do I have to get to you before the prompt to feed you pops up? Huh? Because if I touch you, you'll aggro. Okay. Oh, well, you'll eat from over here. Damn decent of you. So, given that I'm probably going to be standing here for a minute... Come on! I do not like passive tames. This is the reason. Knocking a creature out and then taming it is... I mean, most people prefer passive tames, but this is something else. Can I even jump over them? Yes. And in situations like that, which is why you'd probably be best served entering caves like this with a strong mount, as opposed to just winging it with a shotgun. If you are coming in here with a weapon and not a mount, I would definitely recommend a shotgun or an assault rifle at the bare minimum. cave-dwelling creatures always seem to be at a higher level than their surface counterparts. Okay, if I can find a place to stand where this thing is not going to aggro, it's a decent level. I say decent, most people don't even have an interest unless it's at least level 100. Okay, so first things first, if I want to just sit still and not bother or worry, let's hit the bug spray again. Except I can't, apparently. Okay, if the bug spray starts to wear off, I might have to back off to a safe distance. Oh my god, why do they do this? Or Arthropleura. Well, our ambition to retrieve an Araneo is proving to be difficult. Such is life on occasion. I've opted against a full ARC Let's Play because while this might be considered stream-worthy, there is a great deal of time spent in this game with very little happening. That's a dung beetle. I don't require any more of them. This cave is a good source of them, considering that despite what I have been encountering, this cave is relatively easy. Now, let's give you a sense of the aquatic threat that you might be facing. First, I find that if these torches are extinguished, they tend to burn out much faster. Ah, yes. You can expect to find Sarcosuchus. There's some piranhas. Far fewer than I encountered when I first came in here. In fact, it seems they're not even interested in coming out to play. Probably a smart tactic, to be honest. Let's retreat. Sometimes those dinos make me wonder. Yes, our bug repellent is about to wear off. We are closing in on the artifact chamber. This Arthropleura is likely to aggro, however. Oh, there's a large, massive crystal. Unfortunately, the berry's weight capacity won't entirely allow for it. I'm a little turned around in here. Where exactly was the artifact chamber? How much can the berry carry? Unfortunately, all the meat collected is not exactly to the berry's flavor. Baryonyx will eat fish exclusively. If you have no fish, your baryonyx will not eat. Buyer beware. This particular baryonyx is named Spelunky because it's pretty much exclusively what I've been using him for. There's those piranhas. You can see how damage stacks pretty rapidly with the berry's ability to damage multiple piranhas at once. Significantly tilts the odds in your favor. Sarco finally aggroed. Oh, he seems to be running. Ah, the piranhas got him. Yes, I apologize for the bright flashing. It's an environmental glitch or error that occurs as a result of certain ways this game resolves the environment. Yes, the berry is also well suiting to stunning these Sarcos with its tail whip attack. We're going to have to lose some of the berry's weight somehow. As I said, I would definitely not attempt this without a level 80 mount, bare minimum. Now my spelunky here is level 114, and as you can see, I have little to fear from the assaults of the native creatures. So, let's reapply the bug spray. Perhaps we can still pull a win out of all of this. We should be closing in on the artifact chamber. And that characteristic disturbance is evocative of the artifact. Ah. Pulmonoscorpus. That Pulmonoscorpus had a mate buff, so there must be another one in the vicinity. And here we have it. Artifact of the Hunter, which I'd say I definitely earned the title of, considering the battle it has been to get here. Artifacts will respawn with time, a byproduct of the multiplayer nature of these titles. The point I was hoping to get at while I was taming an Araneo, considering the time required to do so, I had a brief misadventure in playing this in its multiplayer capacity. The maintenance required is a major downside. This game demands a significant portion of your time. Besides base structure decay, which will utterly void structures if they're not visited within a given duration, you also have the issue that all of your mounts require food. Food will spoil, given enough time. To prevent food spoilage, you require devices, preserving bins, refrigerators. The former requires spark powder, which requires materials that must be found and subsequently crafted, and the other requires oil to power generators for electrical power, which similarly must be... Ooh. 36. 12. There's one, like, in the rock. 16. Well, you're the highest level. And now we wait. Unfortunately, it is likely to be immediately attacked as soon as I have tamed it. That is getting a little absurd. try a rear approach angle. This is the best Ara Neo I've found yet, and I do not understand why they have proven to be such difficult customers. I will remain here, unmoving. At least for a time. I was within range to see its interaction, and now it's being a problem. If I move closer, I might make contact with it. So yes, there is an abundance of busy work done in this game, and the multiplayer requires that busy work actually be performed. The single-player variation of the game does not, because when you stop playing, things do not continue to decay or otherwise be expended around you. Now we have to hope that this tame can be concluded in 300 seconds, otherwise I'm going to have to very cautiously back off and come back after I've reapplied the bug spray, because as soon as that bug spray wears off, this wild creature will try to murk me. Luckily, I find, based on my current settings, which are the old base settings added with the single-player specification, so base settings was ×1 hunger accumulation and ×1 taming. Single player adds a ×3 on top of that. Multiplayer was eventually switched so that official was ×2. Smart choice, this game requires enough time as it is, but applying the single player additional ×3 on top of that ×2 would essentially be like sitting on the easy button. Now, if you're interested in doing that, that's your thing, but I have also chosen to tackle this game in the order in which its various titles were released. The idea being to approach the game with the equipment and abilities that would have been available to those who had been here from the outset. Now, the general description I have for this game is Minecraft for grown-ups. Although, technically a peculiar fusion of this game and Minecraft, particularly a voxel-based, entirely modifiable world, exists in the form of PixArk. However, PixArk is only barely affiliated with the original Ark developers. It was operated by a Chinese company who have essentially stopped developing the game. It remains available at cost, and single-player and user setup LAN parties or server things are possible, but official support has basically evaporated. So, PixArk is a work in development that will forever be an unfinished work at this point. Ark, on the other hand, Survival Evolved, is still alive and well, if only appealing to a niche group in the community. I mean, I have had an interest in dinosaurs for a long time. I was a kid when the epic Jurassic Park... No, not Jurassic World, youngins, that's the new one. The original Jurassic Park came out and introduced me to the world of creatures before human existence, long before human existence, that were truly grandiose and interesting. And as I have aged, my studies, or hobby interest, in dinosaurs has not abated. If this timer hits 60 seconds, I might need to bail. I have a minute and a half, and I'm not sure if this guy's gonna go where I need him to go Well, I say guy. These creatures have no listed gender. He's eating pretty regularly, but I'm not sure the taming will go far enough before my bug repellent wears out. In fact, I'm starting to feel like it's almost a certainty that it won't. We're at 81.5. We'll see what another feeding does. 87. Nope. Well, that's the problem, though. If I don't feed it regularly... So I have to bail at the absolute last second. Who knows? I might just make it. It needs 2 more feedings. If it doesn't want to eat before 20 seconds, though... Okay, I gotta be ready to react instantly, because the other one's gonna aggro on it immediately. There we go. And what do you know, this utterly redundant journey, given how many of those artifacts I've already collected during rehearsals in this cave, was not at a total waste. I have acquired a new toy. Or pet, if you prefer. So, let's go ahead and reapply the bug spray, as I could find it. Our prime meat is still cookable when we get back to base. Lots of titanoboas, more than I'm used to encountering in here. And a cave loot drop. What do we have? More titanoboas and pulmonoscorpus. We have a few more Araneo. The rear approach strategy seems to be the safest. These are lower level, so they might be easier to acquire. I generally prefer to have spares wherever possible. Where is your feed prompt? Ah. I suppose I'll have to make peace with only getting the one. This cave is also relatively compact. We didn't actually encounter a megalania this time. Crystal is not of much concern to me. It's not as nearly as rare a resource as obsidian, and my berry is already close to its weight-carrying capacity, at least without an unacceptable sacrifice in mobility. Not that there's much to threaten me on the surface. There'll be a major lag spike as the rest of the overworld loads in. Observe. So, subsequent videos will focus on additional cave exploration. I have not yet acquired an onyx, which means that as I approach the central cave, which is the only other one that I have successfully plundered before, I will probably be attempting to tame one of those creatures. The fact that they are often airborne, in fact they're pretty much perpetually airborne, adds additional difficulty to that particular venture. Now, my statements in terms of Ark's necessary grind in many ways are based purely on the official servers. However, if you decide to take the plunge into unofficial, the problem that you will encounter is that you need to find a server that's right for you. It has to have the settings that you're looking for, because those are entirely variable. There is a lot of optional variation in Ark. And it also has to have a community that you want to be a part of. I have been, or I was, on a Crystal Isles server for quite some time, and the community was, apart from a few ultimately unavoidable toxic players, quite friendly and helpful towards one another. And the better you got to know the community, the friendlier that they became. However, if you're looking for large numbers of random players, ultimately you're more likely to find them on newer maps as opposed to later ones, with the probable exception of Genesis. Very few players want to stay on Genesis. They play it for the duration necessary to get the exclusive creatures and items, and then move along. Ragnarok still has a few active servers, and many of them are, in fact, active. It's just that, in terms of the amount of players that are actively on them, Ragnarok, Valguero, Extinction to a lesser extent, you'll probably find more people on Scorched Earth or Aberration. Now, my server experience, however, was in a player versus environment server. I cannot describe what the player versus player animal would be like. The player versus player setting doesn't entirely appeal to me, however. There's a lot of time and effort spent in Ark to get anywhere, really. None of what I have here at my base came easily. And the prospect of losing all of that time and effort because somebody decided to go on a meat run and you were the meat does not have a great deal of grand approval or appeal for me. So, we're going to prioritize the prime meat, or at least that prime meat which can be saved. Caves are also a great source of chitin, given the abundance of insectoid species that they support. So fundamentally, at this point, it's basically just this game's equivalent of housekeeping. Cook and process the meat. I have a few base locations. Somewhere along the line, I might be operating out of my swamp mansion. Yes, that is a thing. However, at time of recording, the swamp mansion is, as it has been for quite some time, still under construction. So, I am going to end things here. Thank you all so much for watching yet another one of my videos, and one that didn't exactly go very far. If you're unfamiliar with Ark, I did not get into the nitty-gritty of what exactly goes on in this game. That's not the purpose of this video, and I think I've done plenty of videos where I go on at length as to the internals of the game and its mechanics and so forth and so on. If this game interests you, then there's nothing stopping you. It's on Epic, it's on Steam, it's here, it's there, it's everywhere. Get yourself a copy. I would recommend, however, if you don't have the massive amount of time to sink into it, however, that you probably should wait for it to be on sale or just not even bother. This game is a huge time sink, and as a consequence, those who continue to play it are often very dedicated. So that is kind of a hurdle to broad acceptance on the grounds that, well, it scares some people, like how much of my life am I going to have to devote to this particular title. But I got the game, I've invested money in it, I'm still here, I'm still playing it, albeit in a single-player-only capacity. And in the single player, I don't find my experience reduced or robbed. I may not be able to alter the environment significantly, as you could in something like Minecraft, but it obviously looks a lot better. I have a wide spectrum of creatures with various abilities to draw from, which all have a basis, some looser than others, on prehistoric creatures of a variety of eras, and the game even has a nice in-universe explanation for how creatures from such vastly disparate eras could somehow be gathered in one place. A revelation that I am not going to spoil here. But, thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel. I put a lot of effort into the things that I do. And I hope you'll like this video and others. I should probably have pretexted that by saying that I hope you'll watch others on this channel. The content variety is going to expand in the coming weeks and months. Right now it's somewhat limited, but perhaps you can find something that you like. I hope that you're all staying happy and healthy out there in the big world today, and as always, fare thee well.